They told you to chase the dream, but they never told you what it would take. The pressure, the sacrifice, the sleepless nights. Every dream comes with a nightmare, and if you're not ready for both, then you're not ready at all. This isn't just another podcast. This is the truth behind the journey, the highs, the lows, the dreams, and the nightmares.
Dreams and Nightmares podcast. I'm your host, serial entrepreneur Jesse. To my far right, we have my business partner, DC. Introduce yourself.
My name is David Consul. Today we have Ricardo Pierre, your favorite CEO.
Let's go.
Yeah, hashtag your favorite CEO, Prive Parking. How you doing, man?
Hey, man, just happy to be here. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm ready to talk and just ready to do what we do best.
You know, what we do is we speak with local business owners from Boston, from Massachusetts, and we just highlight their business, what they do, and also discuss challenges that they faced in business. We want to highlight the positives and the negatives so that we give a realistic perspective into what it really looks like to own and operate a business. So Ricardo, you know, we introduced him, and now introduce yourself and let us know exactly what you do, what your business is, how it got started, and, you know, we'll get more into depth about, you know, a few different things as it pertains to business and running business.
All right, let's do it, man. Ricardo Pierre-Louis, CEO and founder of Prive Parking. Prive Parking today, we are a logistic mobility company. A lot of people always be like, what does that mean? So pretty much what we do is we focus on two industries. We focus on parking solutions. So we provide valet parking, we manage parking garages and parking lots, and we also do a lot of consulting when it comes to real estate development. We also have a transportation management side where we do consulting and help support and create transportation operation plans anywhere from the city of Boston to sports teams, to any large organizations or any conferences as well. We provide motor coaches, minibuses, sprinters, and we also do VIP black car service. How I got into this, because everyone's always like, how'd you get into this? When I first started my company 13 years ago, it was just a valet parking company. I was going to UMass Dartmouth. I lived on campus. Nothing too special about me. I needed a job. I was living on campus. And then I decided to become a valet parking attendant. When I became a valet parking attendant, I was working for this big company in Boston. I used to be, they would place me in the South End. So I would be the guy outside the restaurants, parking people's cars, greeting them, just doing what I got to do to make sure when they leave, I get a good tip. And I did that my senior year. And I did pretty well because, back then when I was in college, when you made like $200 to $300 going back on campus, you was that guy on campus.
Yeah, you bag.
You threw all the parties with all the best alcohol, or you had the most alcohol, but that's a whole nother story. So, I ended up developing a reputation as Ricardo the Valet. That's how people knew me. And so I did that my senior year. And then I got a job right after I graduated. I graduated with a finance economics degree. And at that time, I got a job offer to work in Seaport of Boston at an IP law firm as an analyst. So I did that. I was all excited. I'm like, cool, I got my corporate job. I left the valet parking job, and, I'm getting ready to take on what I thought was going to be my next challenge in life, which was corporate America. But when I got to corporate America, my first 6 months, I was like, man, this ain't for me. And it was just like, that corporate structure, just being behind your desk, plugging in numbers, doing what you got to do to work your way up. It was just something about that just wasn't who I was, Every time it's funny, around the office, everyone was always, the thing was, where's Ricardo? Because I was always never at my desk, whether I was talking to like the mail guy or I was, walking around just talking to people. What I realized was that I wanted to interact more with people. Being behind the desk, plugging in numbers just wasn't my thing. Yes, I was good at it, but I felt like there was more to do. And so what happened was it was a long weekend. And in corporate America, when you work and there's long weekends and you're the rookie, you don't get a long weekend. You go in the office and do everyone else's work that you don't have to do. So I was in the office, and it's probably like 5 o'clock, and my phone rings. And I was really still close with the other valet parking attendants that worked at that company. So a guy calls me. He's like, hey, Ricardo, I'm working at this restaurant. And this customer came in. He hasn't seen you in a couple months, and he asked if he can have your contact info. I was like, who's the customer? He told me who the customer was. And I told him, I was like, yeah, that's my boy. Give him my number. And then he said something to me. He was like, no matter how good or bad of a job we do, people still talk about you. You should consider starting your own parking company.
Pause. I mean, you just said a lot there. Prior to that conversation, obviously you mentioned you're in corporate. Did you have any thoughts prior to that of ever getting back into valet in any sort of capacity?
You're just gonna climb the corporate ladder, or
no? I was like, listen. I seen the movie Wolf on Wall Street.
I love that movie.
That's the life I thought I was gonna have. Like, I wanted to wear the suit and ties and make these big $1 million deals and live this crazy lifestyle, and that's what I thought I was gonna do. But like I said, sometimes life is life, man. You don't never know where you're gonna be in life, and I think that's the great thing about life. When he said that to me, it's like a light bulb went off in my head. I'm at my office. I'm at my office in front of my desk. He tells me this. And at the time, I'm like, what you talking about? Start a valet parking company in Boston. I'm 22 years old. I don't know nothing about business. You know what I'm saying? Like, you sound and look crazy right now. So I remember just hanging up the phone with him. And when I hung up the phone with him, I had my coming to Jesus. And what I mean by that was I just had this vision in my head of me just starting this valet parking company, hiring my friends or hiring people that I knew in the industry and really just growing it. And it wasn't just like this vision. It was just like a reality. You know what I'm saying? It was like something that I just can't explain. Like, you'll reach this point, some point in your life where you vision something that it becomes you and you don't know how to escape it. It's like it's already predestined, right? And I felt like I had that, like, because I saw it. And I was like, yo, it's not just a vision. This is like, this is me really doing this. I really can see myself doing this. And it got to the point that it was on my head so long that, and now this is going to tell you how old I am, but I remember going to Google and I was like, how to start a valet parking company for dummies. And like, like a bunch of articles came out and I read it and I ended up staying in that office until like 7, maybe like 8:30 at night, just researching and like, trying to see like how to do this. Like, what does this mean? Talked about insurances, upfront costs, like just trying to figure out like, what the hell does all this mean? Yeah. And then that night when I left, I was like, you know what? I'm done. Like, I ain't coming back here.
So that night, within less than 24 hours, you had made the decision.
I was done.
Wow.
That was it.
Wow. And no looking back, that was
it, man. It was like sometimes when you know what I'm saying? And I knew. Felt it. And yeah, it sounds crazy now I'm talking about it. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? I was tripping, like,
well, you know what? Like, ignorance is bliss, right? Because most people say that's crazy, right? You have a corporate job, you're fresh out of college, you're finally making money, you have the opportunity to build and grow with this company, climb the corporate ladder. All of that, feels like, hey, this is the quote unquote American dream.
Yeah.
And then you have this moment or this realization, someone says something and it clicks. Kind of similar to, when I was working security for a company in South Florida, a big company, and someone said to me one time, I was actually visiting here and I was fielding phone calls still, there was a lot going on. And they were like, man, since you've been here, you've been answering your phone and emails, why don't you start your own company? And unlike you, I didn't have that moment of like, yeah, I should do it, because I was so entrenched in the day-to-day that I was like, I would never want to start my own. This is a headache. You know what I mean? I'm just constantly putting out fires. Why would I want to do this? But obviously after some time and after some conversations, it ended up coming to fruition. But again, for you to have that conversation or just hear that and instantly click like that, it's like
crazy.
Something starts to feel tangible, right? It's something that maybe you never thought about. Then you thought about it, you're like, wait, I could actually do this. You know what I mean? I wanted to pause you there because, wow, that was obviously a lot of information. David, I know you had something you wanted to bring up as well.
So I know it clicked for you within that 24-hour span.
Yeah.
Who believed in you after that? Like, or how long did it take for anyone to believe in you, invest in you? Or because, like, I know for me and my parents, at first they had to see proof of concept first before they believed in me. It's like you're leaving a comfortable 6-figure or whatever salary you had at the time to go with no certainty. Like, who believed in you? How did you get them to believe in you? And how was that process?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. Really, no one believed in me. I remember calling my parents. And, I'm really close to my parents, and I got old school Haitian parents. So y'all don't know what that means. Go find your Haitian friend or someone who's Haitian and say, what does old school Haitian parents mean, right? And they'll tell you. But it was just like, Ricardo, you worked so hard. You went to college, you graduated, you have a degree. Getting a job is, stable. Why do you want to do this? It's Boston. And at the time, let's be real, Boston was known to be a very hard city to really get things done being someone of color. You know what I mean? And
even today,
even
it's
still
getting
today.
a little easier, but it's definitely still
today.
a challenge.
So you got to think about it. And I'm in an industry where it's predominantly owned by white males, right? I'm in the parking industry. And so, a lot of people just had questions. And I don't think that they didn't believe in me. I just think that they just was fear. They had fear, right? They feared for me because they feared like, what's going to happen? How are you really going to get there? Because they knew the barriers and the challenges in Boston. And it was like, are you ready? I'm 22 years old, right? I got all this energy. And they're like, damn, is this gonna break him? Or is he gonna really do this? And so I felt like that was the real, that was kind of like the real point where I said to myself, I was like, I ain't got time to worry about, if my parents are going to believe it or not, or if I have friends to support. Like, this is my time. I'm 22 years old. If I'm going to do it, why not now? And so, that was really kind of like the mindset I was on.
Honestly, it's great that you still went with it, because they say the biggest killer of dreams is introducing to a small mind.
Yeah.
And a lot of people quit before they even start. So the fact that you even didn't let that deter you from your path and just kept going, that says a lot. The fact that they didn't believe you, how did you start? Was it self-funded? Did you get loans from the bank? Like, how did that process
Well,
go?
here's a crazy thing about it. So, I actually started by so my parents were not together, but they're best friends. So, which is like a good thing.
Amazing.
So my mom, I'm my mom's only son. So my mom, I'm always gonna have that special connection. So I called my mom. I was like, hey mom, I quit my job and I think I'm gonna start this company. And at first she was like, what's the first part you just said? What did you do? Like, yeah, I quit my job. I'm gonna start this company and I need like $7,000, I think it was at the time. My mom was just like, what? Like, my mom was so confused. Like, what do you mean you quit your company? I was like, nah, I ain't going back. I'm not doing this. I was like, but I need $7,000, right? And at the time I ain't got it. And so my dad, who worked so hard and he had his savings, I remember calling my dad and saying the same thing. And you can already, you already know it ain't the same type of response, right? My dad was like, what the hell you mean you quit? You're like, nah, you gotta go back and go get that job, right? And so my dad was a little bit like harder to kind of like convince. So I went back to my mom and I was like, listen, you always told me to believe in my dreams. I need help with that. I need you to call dad and tell him I need $7,000 to make this dream happen. You know what I'm saying? And so that's exactly what she did. So she called him and she put that pressure on him. And, women, when they put that pressure on you, you're going to break. But I appreciate it because, my dad took the time and just said, you know what, I'm going to give him this money. And I knew that was coming from his savings. And just right there, that kind of showed me like, you know what, you really got one chance at this. You know what I'm saying? Like, your dad is really taking a bet on you. He's putting his own money where his mouth is. So I had really no room to like look back.
Yeah.
So he gave me that $7,000, bought an insurance policy, started a company. I hired one of my boys and, we just went from restaurant to restaurant. My first restaurant was a restaurant in the South End, Toro, Toro, which is still there today. One of the most premier restaurants in the city of Boston. It's owned by a celebrity chef, Ken Oranger. That was my first restaurant, and the reason why I got them, just like you said, when you was working as security, people knew you and you were good at doing what you did. And people knew me as Ricardo the valet, and I was good at what I did. And so when I told them, hey, I'm interested of you guys being my client, I got this opportunity, I'm starting my business, he gave me a chance. And when he gave me that chance, that's how I was able to break in that industry. That's how Prive Parking really started.
Now, really quick, I want to highlight something also for the viewers out there. I always try to tell this to people as well, as like, you never know where this life is going to take you, right? I have people who, work security or they may work valet and they look at it like, hey, I'm going to college. This is a transition job for me. Or they're older and they're retired. Again, this isn't a career, right?
Yeah.
And I used to always tell, and I always had this mindset, even when I was just a security officer, I had the mindset of like, I could take this experience some way and apply it to whatever it is I'm going to do. I had no idea I was going to start my own security company at that time, but I knew that the experience that I was gaining, meeting different people, just seeing the way operations work, seeing, you kind of get, when you're in security, you get kind of some some backstage clearance to certain
Yeah,
things that
yeah,
other people may not
fly
have
on
the
the wall.
opportunity to see. Yeah, you know what I mean? So I used to always tell people like, hey, you know, I heard people like, man, I don't care about this job. I'm gonna go and I'm going to college. Once I graduate, I'm done here anyway. Or once I do this, you didn't have that mindset. You marketed yourself, whether knowingly or unknowingly. You created, you know, this perception, and people knew you and remembered you.
Yeah.
And
part of the brand.
Yeah, you branded yourself, and that transitioned and created your first client.
Yeah.
You know, so I say that to say, if you're out there and you have a job where you feel like it's a dead end job or a transitional job and you don't care and blah, 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 get rid of that mindset immediately, because you never know where that job could take you. It may not be within that same field that you're in now, but you could meet someone, you could network, or someone may remember you the same way they remembered Ricardo. And, you know, next thing you know, you have your own business.
I mean, listen, man, you hit it right on the nail. Like, you know, when I got Toro as the first restaurant, now you gotta also understand too, right? I'm excited. Got my dad's money, $7,000. Did what I had to do. Got the business up and running. Got my friends working for me, right? But what they don't tell you about is that that first couple months or even first couple years of starting your business. Because it's cool to say you're a business owner, but it's not cool when you're bootstrapping. And so for y'all who knows for y'all who know what bootstrapping is, you know what I'm talking about. But for y'all who don't know what bootstrapping is, bootstrapping means that you got very limited money and you got to make shit work.
Yep.
And when you got a very limited amount of money and you got to make shit work, you ain't got time to enjoy shit. Right, you always gotta figure out, like, man, if I got $10, how am I gonna spend this $10 to make sure I can pay my guys or make sure, you know, we got enough tickets to do the valet for the next day, right? And so I struggled my first couple months when I got business. I was only making like $200 in profit a month. I was living at home at my mom's house. My mom lived in Brockton. I was living in Brockton. I was taking a train in every single day to Boston. You know, I'm 22 years old. All my friends wanted to go out to the bars and hang out and go on trips. I couldn't do that. You know, I was worried about, you know, my business and like, y'all making $200 a month. You know, I ain't got no money. And,
I ain't got it right now.
you know, exactly. And people would be like, man, you know, you want to be this entrepreneur. You ain't even making money. You know, I wasn't cool. I didn't have I couldn't go out. I couldn't get the car. I couldn't do all the cool things that, you know, that's what you think when you're an entrepreneur, it pays off. I didn't go through that. I went through like, nah, I can't, man. I gotta hustle. I gotta figure this thing out. And you know, it was just like a mindset. It's something that you go through because a lot of people don't see that. You know, people be like, yeah, I started my business. And, you know, on Instagram now you look at it, people start their business and they all of a sudden super rich, live this amazing lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? It's like, damn, you didn't work hard. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? But everyone has their pains, everyone has their challenges, and everyone has their story. And so what people don't talk about enough is the reality and how they got to what they got to. And so, like I said, the first couple of months I struggled, man. It was at the point where I considered, like, damn, like, did I make a fucked up decision on, you know, leaving corporate America, right? Could I have done this part-time? Like, damn, you know, like, you know, like, I was like, damn, what's something got to give? Yeah. And then, you know, within the first 3 months of starting my company, I got an opportunity where I was working outside the restaurant, Toro, which was my client, and one of their VIP customers came in. And the VIP customer at the time was the general manager of Herb Chambers BMW. And she knew me from working. So she's like, this is your company? I was like, yeah, it's my company. She's like, I'm so proud of you. She was like, too bad you guys can't do valet at the dealership. And I was like, why? What do you mean? Like, what's going on? She's like, well, we have an issue. We always have all these X amount of cars coming in. We only have limited spaces. We wish we can do some type of valet operation there. And I was like, well, why can't you? And she was like, I don't know. And she was like, you know what? Matter of fact, why don't you come into my office on this particular day at this particular time, right? So I'm like, oh, like, let's see what's going on. So I go in there. I'm at the Herb Chambers BMW dealership. You know, I'm like, damn, I ain't getting the car, but I'm in here. And, you know, and I was in a room and I was with like the GM and like the executive team. And they were telling me about the challenges that they're having at the dealership. And this is where I say entrepreneurs, like that fake it till you make it when it comes in. I literally was like, I could do this. Like, yo, I could do this.
Didn't know how, but
I didn't know how the hell I was gonna do it.
You didn't know. Yeah.
But I was like, yo, I got you. I could do this. And they was just like, and it was for me, it was more like, I believed in myself. You know what I'm saying? So when I went in there, I was just like, no, we could do this. I could do this. I completely understand what you're coming from. And I was like, you know, I'm gonna create a solution. So I put together a proposal to do valet parking at the BMW dealership, where we pretty much identify which cars are going in for service right away. Because when you go to BMW, get your car service, it could be like, hey, I need tire pressure, right? You don't need someone waiting an hour for tire pressures.
Yeah.
You can bring them in the back, pump up the tire pressure, and get them right out, right? So that alleviates the traffic, right? But I had to learn that to know what was going on site. So at 22, and I just turned 23, I submitted a proposal to BMW for $420,000 for the year, right? Crazy.
Now, question. Where did you get, like, when you're creating this proposal, again, you mentioned you really didn't know how you were going to do it. You just had the confidence that you could figure out and get it done. Where did you get your numbers from? How did you go about creating this proposal? There wasn't ChatGPT.
There's no ChatGPT at the time.
At the time. Nah, you're right.
Yeah, if you had ChatGPT, life's a lot easier. Perplexity, Claude, all these things. At the time, you didn't have access to that. I mean, Google, could get things done, but not to the degree that
it was different
AI
back then.
does.
Yeah, it was different.
How did you go about, creating this proposal and coming up with these numbers, and how confident were you in those numbers at the time?
So how I came about with the numbers were, so before I put the proposal together, I asked them how many. So they did it in-house, right? So they had their own valets, or they call them like car techs. So I said, how many did you guys have throughout the day, right? So BMW at the dealership, they have long hours. So they gave me what their staffing model was, right? And I was like, how much you pay them? So I was looking at it and I was like, all right, how much am I gonna pay my guys? How much is insurance gonna cost me, right? So I gotta call up my insurance company, be like, hey, we're gonna do this dealership. What does that look like? I gotta include that. I gotta include uniforms, right? So you take this total cost and then you have to divide it by the workforce. So let's say I need to hire 20 people. So if I know the total cost is like, I don't know, let's say it costs me like, let's just throw out a number, like 10,000 for the month, just for my employees, right? Then I got the insurance, then I got to add the uniforms, then I got to add maybe equipment and all the additional, costs to it. And then I got to make money. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of have to play with the numbers to see like, okay, could we stay within their budget? Because the thing is, they don't know, they're not in the logistic company. They're into selling cars and fixing them. That's how they make their money, right? And so when I put this proposal together, I just used the model that they had, put my guys in there, and then just made sure I covered all my costs, right? Went through the line items, how much is this all gonna cost? And then I was like, how much do I wanna make? And then when I was like, this seemed like a good number. If you're making a few thousand a month and you're able to pay your bills, it seemed like a good number. And then that's how I got to the number. And so, I'm 23 years old. I'm about to submit a little under $500,000 contract. I'm the youngest one in the room. That day was a little nerve-wracking, right?
For sure.
So I submitted that proposal. They asked a couple of questions. All of a sudden, I get an email like, hey, we approved your proposal. And when that approval came and that email came in, that's how I knew, like, I got this.
You got something.
I could do this. I got this, right? And so that's how I was really able to kind of like convince myself. I knew I could do it.
Yeah.
But when I realized, like, nah, I could.
Now you see it.
Now
really
I see it,
happening.
right? Now I
Oh,
see it
wait,
really
I could
happening.
really do this.
And, it was
concept.
different too. When your bank account hits, it's a little different of a story, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how I was like kind of able to build that confidence and to kind of really like move forward.
I actually seen, what was that quote that I sent you the other day? I forget what CEO said it. Female CEO.
Oh, you don't know how many people really don't get or are still figuring it out.
Yeah, she said, I wish I knew, when I was coming into business, something like, I wish I knew how many people didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
So, what I took from that is like, a lot of people think you need to have the perfect plan. You need to know everything before you start a business, because if you don't, how are you ever going to do it? But there's something to be said for people that just go out and do it, right? If you would have waited and said, no, I don't know this stuff yet, man, let me stay in my corporate. Yeah, you could have done that. Maybe some people say, oh, that might have been smarter to do, but you had the confidence, the belief in yourself, and the ignorance. It takes a little bit of ignorance to do this. You know what I mean?
Right.
A little bit of ignorance,
Right.
because that kind of blocks out the fear. You know what I mean? Like, us even going back to us starting the security company, I remember talking to some friends who had far more experience in security than me, and I said, man, would you ever start your own security? And they were like, hell no. Because they were in it so long and they knew almost too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They knew more than me. And what they knew scared them.
Even when I came to him even when I came to him to try and start it, he was like, nah, I don't know.
Yeah,
but I was just so ignorant to it. I was like, no, let's go. We can do it. I got the contacts. You know how to run the business. We can do it. He was just so jaded from like the day to day, but I was just.
And it was that mindset that kind of gave me the like, pushed me to like, you know what? If he's this confident that we could do it, let's talk about it and let's see what we could do.
Nah, you guys got a great thing, man. Shout out to you guys.
Appreciate that, man. But going back to, so now you get this contract,
Yep.
obviously.
Now I get this contract.
And tell us a little bit about the process of hiring and onboarding employees and the challenges that you faced in that regard, and probably still face to this day, because we all know whenever you're dealing with people is always challenges. Tell us, what that process was like and how you navigated it and what challenges you had to deal with or still deal with today in regards to hiring and, dealing with employees.
I think, when it came to hiring employees, it wasn't really that challenging for me. And one of the reasons why I think so is because I know a lot of people in the parking industry, right? When you're valet parking, you're making like below minimum wage. You're relying on a lot of tips, a lot of college, a good amount of students that are doing this, and just people that had free time. So because I was in the industry, I knew like kind of who to go to, and if they didn't want to do it, they would point me in the right direction to somebody. So I really relied on just like my network and like referrals. That's how I was able to kind of bring people in. And so when I was able to bring them in, I felt like playing football in college and high school helped me develop like leadership skills. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're on a team.
David always says
that. And so one of the things that I think gave me an advantage when it comes to hiring and just finding good quality people is most people who work in the parking transportation industry are people of color. They look like me, right? But you don't really see the owner that looks like you, right? And so I felt like because I was young, because I had this contract, because, I'm able to pay them, people was like, man, I ain't working for Buddy that don't represent me. I'm going to work for Buddy that represents me and try to help Buddy out, right? And I had to create an environment where you're not a number, you're a person here. Because at the end of the day, I'm not parking all the cars. At the end of the day, I'm not dealing with all the customers. I need to make sure I create a work environment that people are happy to be a part of, right? I don't say, it's funny, today I never say, oh, see that person over there, he worked for me. I always say, oh, you see that person over there, he worked with me. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the mentality we have at Prive Parking. You're not working for us. You're working with us to provide a product or a service that people really like feel like is very, very valuable. And so we do that all throughout, and we still do that today. That's the thing. I have this thing where it's like an open door policy where parking and transportation, on my parking side, we get a lot of like I said, students and people who are, we call like your stepping stone, right? Like if you're coming to do valet, it's a stepping stone opportunity. It's an opportunity to make additional revenue. And sometimes people heard about my story, like, listen, I just want to work for you and learn off of you. But I give everyone the opportunity to come in, and if you have questions about business, growth, just like how to develop like personal, like how to get over personal challenges within yourself, I'll give you 30 minutes. I'll give you 15 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's important. I want to stay connected with my people. I don't want ever my people to feel like I can't reach my boss. Or I can't reach the owner. Like, I felt like there's value into that. Right? When people feel like, nah, my boss knows who I am. Nah, I could talk to my boss. And so I think that's always been kind of my opportunity to really recruit and keep like good, valuable, like good quality workers.
That's good.
Yeah, I think same can be said for us. Is like
I say that in every interview.
You
don't work for us. You work with us. Because without you, there is no us. So that's a good standpoint.
And I always feel like going into it, you have a new employee. Again, even within security, most security employees are people of color, are minorities. Again, these aren't the highest paying positions all the time, but it is an opportunity to grow and to learn. And I always tell people, sometimes I interview someone and they say, man, I'm trying to become a teacher. And I said, well, guess what? We have a network of people who are in the educational field. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm trying to, get into fitness. We know personal trainers. We know business owners. I always say, leverage your network. Use us. Hey, talk to us. Don't just show up to work and go home. I mean, if that's what you want to do, you could do that. But you also have an opportunity to grow with us and learn. And even if it's something outside of security that we could help you with, we have people in union, we have people, electricians, whatever the case may be. I always say, hey, my dad's a contractor. I'm always willing to build and to help someone. It doesn't have to directly benefit me or my company. It's just a matter of building this network, helping people out. And I think that has allowed us to retain employees and to keep people on board. Because they have this respect, and it feels more tangible for them, right? When you see someone like you doing it, it's like, wow, I could do that too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
obviously there's things that you have to do and
Yeah.
you know, to accomplish that. I have some people say, man, I can do that too. And then I say, listen, if you can't show up on time now, you're not going to do it for yourself. It's you either have it or you don't. You know what I mean? You need to have that in you. But I do feel like we have a very similar story in regards to obviously being young, being minorities, and how we've built our business models in our respective industries.
And in addition to that, I'm gonna piggyback off that. And last thing on this contract, because it's so similar, people hear that number, close to $500,000 contract.
You rich.
You rich.
Yeah.
You rich.
You're rich.
But was BMW paying weekly, bi-weekly, or were they net 30?
Great question.
How did you sustain payroll? Because if you're not getting paid from BMW weekly, you still have payroll where you got to pay, where you got to make. And if payroll's substantial, you got to cover it with, because if you don't pay your employees, you don't have a business.
Yeah, right.
So you have to be able to float that net 30, sometimes net 60. So how was that process, and how did you learn and navigate that?
I had really, I got lucky. I found a really good attorney. It's funny because we were talking about that. So we were able to put in our contract that they had to pay the first month in advance. So when they signed the contract, they paid for the first month already. And so, that's when I was like, oh, okay, like there's multiple ways I'm getting these deals done. You know what I mean? Sometimes when you do these deals, you don't get paid until services are performed. And it's like a net 30, net 60, next 90. But you can change the terms on your contract. Like, nah, like you sign and you cut that check. Now if you can make it happen, you can make it happen. But don't, there's multiple ways to kind of get things done. You know what I'm saying? There's not just one way to do business.
Yeah.
And so I learned that through obviously the years of being in business. And so like I was just really good attorney. Shout out to my attorney who helped me do that contract. But yeah, he taught me like, we can have them pay up front. So they paid the first month up front. And that's how I was able to kind of get it going. I didn't have to worry about like, damn, I'm going to get like $25,000, $30,000 up front to pay my bills.
I like that. We better use that, honestly.
Yeah.
Hold on.
We might have to use that one.
I like that. I like that because that's our biggest thing. Payroll's our biggest expense, and it keeps us up at night, just making sure that
Imagine
we're gonna be able to pay people. So
I feel like we've just now got to a point where we feel a little. I mean, the other day I asked you, "Hey, how we doing?" When you said a number, I was like, "Okay, we're good." But it's like just now getting to that point. But as we grow, the bigger we get, the more employees
the more
we have,
hours,
the higher our payroll gets, the
gets.
higher our workers' comp gets, the higher everything gets. Tell us a little bit about your company now, where you stand now. I know we discussed your first contract, how you started. Where do you stand now? How big is the company? How many employees do you have? Who's your longest tenured employee?
All right. Yeah.
Get into that a little bit, just so we have an idea again where your company stands.
Today we're Boston's premier parking transportation operator, and I'm proud to say that. We, like I said, we're about, I would say, 20 to 25 guys. We've done some great things. My company, we recently just did the entire transportation operation for the first ever HBCU football classic tournament that took place in Boston. It was Morehouse versus Johnson C. Smith. So what we did was we provided all the buses, the motor coach buses for the football team, the marching band, and the cheerleaders. We also helped move around the fans as well.
Now, do you own these buses or you rent?
No, so our model. So what we do is we're in management, right? So we can pretty much create the operation, but then we go out and then we find the operators too. That's on the bus side. But when it comes to like the sprinters and the black cars, we have those in house because we also have that too as well. And so we actually not only did we do that, but we actually did the new edition street naming for the city of Boston too. The mayor of Boston, Mayor Wu, brought back New Edition, and she named the street after them. And so you got to imagine, New Edition, they're a big crew, right? They got their friends and family, and we pretty much ran the entire transportation operation. We provided them with police detail, Mercedes Sprinters. We brought them from like the hotels to the street naming ceremony to all these different events that were happening. We pretty much ran their entire transportation operation for them as well. And then our biggest contract that we did was the 113 NAACP convention that took place here in Boston. It was 10,000 people, and it was a week long in Seaport, and we ran the entire transportation operation for 10,000 people in the city of Boston, which was the first time that a local Black-owned business won a major contract from the convention center, which is game changer.
Clap it up for that, man.
Yeah, facts.
Thank you.
Gotta clap it up for that. Go ahead.
25-minute runtime. I just want to make sure I'm conscious of that.
Oh yeah, we good. Okay. No, we fine. So with all these, you mentioned that you do different things, right? You do transportation now. Initially, you were just strictly valet.
It was valet.
At what point did you say, hold on, I could leverage this and kind of do, transportation? I could do different things. Like at what point, at what year did you decide that that was something that you were capable of, and when did you implement it?
It's funny that we talk about that because sometimes when things are happening that you can't control, right, you look at it as like, damn, missed opportunity. And the reason why I say that is I'm going back to COVID. When COVID came, a lot of my restaurants, a lot of my accounts were closing because no one knew what they didn't know, right? So everyone was closing down. So when they start closing, the hotels, the restaurant, my business starts closing, right? Yeah. So I have people that I'm responsible for, right? This is their job. And so I had to pivot real quick from the valet parking to what am I going to be able to do? And so one night I was up late looking up a bunch of I was up late on the computer trying to figure out where I can get money, whether it's like the PPP, all these federal opportunities when it comes to like small businesses. And I remember I was woken up like at 5 a.m. by like drilling outside my apartment. I'm like, what's going on? Who the hell is drilling? Like, it's COVID. Ain't nobody working. You know what I'm saying? And so I look outside my window and I see like construction workers like still like working. I'm like, hold on. Construction workers still working? They getting a check. So in my head, another light bulb went off and I was like, real estate development is still going on. I need to figure out how to get in real estate development. And so I started my company, I was able to develop a relationship with the mayor at the time, Mayor Marty Walsh, who introduced me to all these real estate developers, right? I was able to reach back out to him and was like, hey, I would love to be a part of your development team. I think I can help when it comes to diversifying your team, but not only diversifying your team, but I bring the parking aspect to these developments, right? You have to look at curbside management. And so I was able to talk about that because I had experience on, nobody knows the curb better than the valets, right? When it comes to commercial parking, handicap parking, everything from ADA to just like the mobility aspect on what that looks like. And so I was able to close a deal with a developer, the Cronin Group at the time when COVID happened. And when I closed him, I just went out to all the other developers and I was like, yo, I got Cronin as a partner. Don't y'all want to be like them? And so I was able to kind of build this new line of service as parking and transportation consultant. And that's how I was able to keep my company afloat during COVID because I was getting those monthly checks as a consultant, right? And so I was able to kind of not only build a new line of service, but create a name and a reputation for that industry. And so that's how we got into the consulting piece when it comes to parking and transportation, which, by the way, we also are the transportation consultant for the new stadium being built in Boston, White Stadium, for the Boston Legacy professional women's soccer team.
Wow, okay.
Blessing and a curse.
Yeah,
Awesome.
definitely.
Yeah.
Real quick, then I'll pass to David. A reoccurring theme that has come up throughout this conversation, I hope you guys are paying attention, is you constantly reach out to people within your network, people that you met.
Yeah.
Tell us and kind of go over how important having a strong network has been for you, how you've gone about growing your network and maintaining your network throughout these years, because obviously you've been able to leverage that to multiple business opportunities.
I think to be honest, it's funny, right? Everyone always says, it's all about who you know, right? That's what everyone says. I'll be like, I'll correct them. I'll be like, nah, it's not about who you know. It's about who knows you. Because when people have those opportunities, when they have to select a vendor or give a contract or fund someone, are they thinking of you at that time? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people be so happy, like, yo, I know that person. That's not like, but when that person has an opportunity to benefit or impact you, is he thinking of you the same way you're looking at him, right? And so when I say that, it's kind of like when you meet someone, you guys may have different beliefs, different views on things. That doesn't mean that you guys can't do business with each other. All it takes is that small mutual ground, right? Like, we're in Boston. People love sports here. You know what I mean? We're a sport town. You can connect with someone on the Red Sox, the Patriots, the Celtics, even the Bruins, right? There's always something to talk about. We're a smart city. Education. People are prideful about where they come from in education. You can always have a conversation on that. People love family. People love to feel a part of a community, right? Whether it's a fitness community, mental health community,
Running
arts,
club,
arts,
whatever it
culture,
is,
whatever
yeah,
it is, right?
definitely.
There's always something that you can find common grounds or common interests when you come to meeting with people. And so I always look for that, right? I don't ever go into something like, what is this person going to do for me, right? I always go into a new relationship. When I meet someone, I'm like, how are we going to have a good time together,
Yeah.
right? Where are we going to find mutual interests where we have something more to just talk about besides business,
Yeah.
right? Because you got to think about it. When you meet someone, it's like, when you go up to the mayor and you're like, hey, mayor, I have this idea and I'm thinking of this and that. How many of those you think she gets out of the day?
Yeah, plenty.
Right? Plenty of
every
them.
week, every
Plenty
day,
of them, right?
every day of the week, someone's
Right?
coming up to her. Yeah.
But if I click on the TV and I saw the mayor playing the piano at symphony, right? And I knew the songs that she was playing, next time I see the mayor, I'd be like, hey, Mayor Wu, you did a great job playing that note. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was really good. Like, by the way, like, how often do you practice playing the piano? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a different approach.
Yeah.
So you've talked a lot and brought us through your journey from the start with Toro, BMW, and like some of the big deals you've done with the HBCU Classic. And how has your operation changed? What systems have been put in place, and how do you maintain that high level of Prive parking service till this day?
I mean, a lot has changed. Like you guys said, I started, being outside these restaurants and just hustling and bustling and bootstrapping. Today, I can confidently say we're just in a scaling phase. I think with business, you'll have something good, but then you want to see how do you multiply that, right? And that's where scalability comes in. And so the great thing about business and what I love the most is it's an ongoing learning journey. You know what I'm saying? You're never like the ultimate entrepreneur, the ultimate business person. There's always new things to learn. I think once you invest in your industry and in your business, you're always thinking of what's next, right? Because it's not about just that contract. Oh, I got this big contract, I'm happy. It's like, what else can I do? How many more other people I can employ, right? What are more accounts we can go after? What are different markets? What are different states, right? So you're always constantly thinking like, how, right? And so when you know that when you know that you're on a journey to scale and grow, you become a student of learning. And when you become a student of learning, you want to learn from the best. So you strive to go after or connect with people that are either where you want to be or that know how to get things done, right? And so you will become more intentional about your time. Your time becomes the most important thing to you. Because now you don't have time to just go to a bar with your friends or just, give someone attention that ain't really bringing you no real like purpose or helping you fill your cup, right? Anything, it might be draining or it might just be entertainment, but who wants to be entertained when you can be out doing things that have value and impact? You know what I'm saying? And so you take yourself a lot more seriously, but most importantly, you take your time more seriously. So you do things like, you know what, I'm gonna go to networking events with entrepreneurs, right? I wanna hang out with more people that wanna be more independent, more self-growing, right? I wanna figure out what's going on in this AI space, right? Everyone's talking about AI. Right now we're building our own AI bot, right? People are like, you building your own AI bot? Like, yeah, we building our own AI bot. Like, you reach out to us and, we just figured out ways in our operations to kind of limit costs, but most importantly, just be more efficient, effective. I think that's what's important right now with like transportation. Someone needs a ride right away. You ain't got time to wait a day or two, right? You need to be able to respond and to be able to make things happen immediately. So regarding our operations, we've just been able to just look into my operations from where I first started and where it is now. Most of the biggest change we see is like, it comes to positions and people, right? We're able to hire more people. It'll put people in certain positions where I don't have to be that day-to-day guy. Yeah. I'm not the day-to-day guy anymore. I'm more of the guy who's like thinking of how do we take this valet parking company and make it into mobility and logistics, right? And what does that mean? And then how do we impact not just a convention center or an organization? How do we impact cities? How do we impact states, right? And then how do we, innovate on the technology side? Look at Uber, right? You can get a car from Uber, but why can't you get buses from Uber, right? What does that look like? When you need emergency buses or when you need like ADA, which is like, the special population, services, right? And so that's where my mind is. My mind is like not just here just to fit in and be in a market and be like, yeah, I'm a black business in the parking and transportation market. Nah, my.
We might have to vote that piece so they don't steal your idea.
Yeah,
You never know who's watching. We might vote that.
I mean, I give a little bit, but it ain't,
Yeah.
But I'm here to really like make an impact.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really dope about, once you hit that certain point in entrepreneurship and business, you look more in impact.
Yeah.
And so how do you do that? And what does that mean to you? Everyone has their own like definition, but that's where we are, man. And, I'm happy, I'm blessed. I'm in a great point in my life. We built a great business. We have great clients and, we're just getting bigger and better.
Ricardo, man, you dropped so many gems in this conversation. I hope you guys watch this not once, not twice, maybe 3-4 times to really pick up on these gems. Real last thing before we wrap it up, tell us a little bit about where you see Prive Parking going. Where do you see the business going in the next 10 years, 5 to 10 years? As business owners, as you know, we're always thinking about the future. Where do you see your business in 10 years? Do you see yourself going out of state? Do you see yourself continue to expand, merging? Are you hoping to get bought out one day? Like, where do you see your company going in the next 10 years? Tell us what that looks like to you and how you plan on getting there.
Well, I do a lot of traveling. I love traveling. Even when I travel for pleasure, I'm always like, I'm so business oriented. I'm always like, all right, how do they get a better transportation system? How does it, what are some improvements they can do when it comes to accessibility for people? And I'll tell you about a trip I did to Dallas. And I don't know how many of you guys been to a Dallas Cowboy football game, but it's an experience. It's a whole nother world. I'm in Dallas and I'm going to the stadium, and as I'm driving to where the stadium is, you like enter like this non-gated community. It's like Dallas Cowboy Nation, right? You go in there, it's parking lots, it's hotels, it's restaurants, it's food trucks, it's like parks, it's fields, it's its own Dallas Cowboy community where it's like, damn, like these players could live here. And so what that did was it set a light bulb and say, things are shifting. It's not about just focusing on a particular target market in a group. Things have changed on how do you connect everyone, right? It's about connectivity. And so whenever you talk about connectivity, you got to talk about community. And community can be very like broad, right? Like what type of community we talk about? We can do sports community. Sports community can be all type of sports, right? And so what I'm noticing is that there is a transition that happened where businesses are focusing more on how to maximize their fans, their clients, and create communities, right? When you are a fan of the Celtics, you are more likely to go to Celtics-driven events. You're more likely to want to be around Celtics-driven events. So whether that's living, eating, just like doing your daily activities, you want to be involved with that particular community. So once I noticed that, I said, all right, how are we gonna get into these communities? Right? I think that's where the next big boom is gonna be, is how to bring people together, how to bring people in the communities. And I think we're gonna see a shift in the sports and entertainment industry. And that's where we want to be in. We want to do a lot more with the sports teams. We want to do a lot more with the art culture. We want to do a lot more in cities that are pro-business, but also that understand the importance of building stronger, more vibrant, livable communities. That's where we're going.
A lot of gems,
Nice,
a lot of
man.
plans. Ricardo, we definitely appreciate your time. I think we could probably go for another hour, 2 hours.
Too
dog.
easily.
I have a
easily.
lot of questions, a lot of things on my
Yeah.
mind, but we definitely appreciate your time.
Appreciate being here, man.
Everyone again watching this, if you don't know, can you mind dropping your socials? Let's
Hey
do
man,
some-
if you don't know, it's your favorite CEO. It's Ricardo Pierre-Louis. Instagram is RickyPL12. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. Prive Parking all day. Like I mentioned, everything you do. We do it all. Just
all.
call me. We do it all.
Transportation
We do it all. Just
services,
call me.
logistics, whatever
Like
it is
that.
you need, reach out to Ricardo.
There we go.
Again, we appreciate your time, man.
Appreciate
Thank you
it,
so
man.
much.
Thank you for
Wishing
being
you
here.
My guy.
much success, continued success. It's David, it's Jesse, it's Ricardo, Dreams and Nightmares Podcast. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Bang.
We out.